I'm going to monitor it on Facebook and YouTube. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. One, and two. Oh, 1 second. Okay. And okay. And let me go back here. Okay. So 3, 2, 1, 0. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Authenticity, the very premiere of Authenticity on the SoulGNetwork.com with my beautiful friend and beloved sister, Anna Toothman, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for. This is her show, but I just want to let you know what we're doing. We have about 12 shows now that are coming on weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. Most of them are weekly, and hers is one of them. And we are coming fast, making Soulgy mainstream, making conscious conversations mainstream, making angels and ETs and elementals and human beings from the heart, raw and real, authentic. And we're doing our best to create the new earth. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over this program entitled Authenticity, a weekly series on soulgnetwork.com to the hostess, the beautiful Anna Toothman.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are all tuning in from. Welcome to Authenticity. The reason I like authenticity is because it gives an opportunity to what I feel and desire is most important for everyone to hear, to be their authentic self, no matter what, to always bring that to the forefront and to showcase your skills, your individual light, and that this show may hold that reflection back to you, Teri. Welcome to the show. My beautiful sister, I've known you a long time. I want to thank you for walking this path with me for 10 plus years, holding my hand through the tears, the joy, the laughter. I love you dearly and welcome. Thank you, Todd, for this opportunity.
Thank you for taking it.
Well, Teri, where would you like to start? Because the show is to showcase sisters like yourself who've been tapped in so many years, 40 years plus. You're like a library of information. And you've been behind the scenes like myself, but we're stepping forth now. So this is like our coming out party. Together, we're showcasing our light and our love and unconditional love for humanity, ourselves. So where do you want to start, Teri?
Excellent question, and thank you for such a beautiful intro, because it really is a coming out party. As you said, we've held each other's hands for a really long time, and that in and of itself, given the nature of spirituality and all the things that are transitioning, that's a gift. Because some things endure when spirit intends that. Some of us are really close puzzle pieces to each other. So one of the things that there are so many frames that I felt into in terms of expressing stuff today. And my journey as an elder, I've been in this game of life for a very long time and have gone through all kinds of different awarenesses. We each have our story, but I'm finding that, for me anyway, the things that have happened to me in my life, I left breadcrumbs for myself through my whole life, whether it was prophetic dreams or whether it was traumas or whether it was the family I was born into or my astrology. The piece that I've been gifted with, which just made me chuckle when you chose authenticity, is I knew very early, the first time it got tested was when I was 3. I've felt truth. I've known when truth was in my presence and when truth wasn't. And growing up, like many of us have, in very challenging circumstances, having that as something to hold on to, even though the craziness of the world didn't make any sense. Lots of us have had dysfunctional families and all kinds of trauma that has gone on, but truth has always resided with me, and it first demonstrated itself when I was 3. So I've really been shown with the breadcrumbs I left myself and the things that spirit has interacted with. I was born in a very religious family, very middle class. I was lucky enough years ago, I told myself I wasn't going to use the word lucky, but it feels lucky right now, is to run across a book called The Light Shall Set You Free. And I lived in Santa Fe for years. And boy, is that a place to practice discernment. There's lots of gifted people and lots of people that are like, okay. Anyway, the light, the light, I even brought it. I have quite a library. And she's a PhD out of New Mexico and very credible person. And all of a sudden she started getting this information and she wrote 2 books. The first one was We Are the Arcturians, but this was the one that was like my primer. So in the very first parts of this, she actually reiterates something. I've had one teacher in my life, and she was an Apache holy woman. And I met her in the MGM Grand by following her hair, and the cells in my body literally vibrated to the lady. And I walked up to her at an intermission and actually asked her who she was. She made me feel funny. That's how articulate I was back then. But she reiterated what was in this book, that there are star seeds on the planet and there are earthlings on the planet, and it all has to do with our different incarnational cycles. She used to say to me that this was an Earth 3, and there's a curriculum in an Earth 3, which is polarity. And so that's very much what has happened in my life, is there have been the polarities of good and bad, right and wrong, and all of those kinds of things that we've framed. But then she said, star seeds are here that they'll wake up. And when they wake up, they have, some of them actually, specific jobs to do. So I was fortunate enough that that framed me in my early crises of waking up. My wake-up call physically was actually breast cancer that I had a literal miracle around. And that gave me another seed to start following. So in the course of all of the things that have taken place, the framework of knowing I was seated and knowing that I always knew from the time I was a child, I live about 10 miles from the Great Salt Lake. And I always knew that my incarnation had to do with water. It had to do with the lake, but then I didn't have any background or understanding. And as years went on and the intermittent fasting and keto, the salt, I knew salt preserved. So early on, I've never had anything but books as my teachers, and prophetic dreams that I've had. That's been my teachers. And so in that, everything has come to me. And the first one actually was, before this, Wilhelm's translation of the I Ching. And in that, Carl Jung does a preface. And Carl Jung is the person who first coined collective consciousness in all of his research. And he talked about, if seekers of wisdom, if there be such. And because I had no one in my life, literally, that I either trusted, felt there was any kind of connection or any wisdom, Carl Jung, in the words on that page, and then learning how the I Ching functioned, was my first intro into anything out of the ordinary. And so it's just been a stair step of different pieces of knowledge coming to me through lots and lots of trauma, as we've all had, or almost everyone that I've met on a spiritual path has had. And one of the greatest lessons has been discernment, because there are so many people that are gifted and so many people that have had near-death experiences and everything. But for me, my path has been very much, who can you trust? Because yes, while they know things, does it feel right inside of myself before I even understood actually what that meant? And Todd, before, that was the comment that I made in reference to you. I've just always been able to feel the authenticity of people. And it can sound like judgment on 3D, but when you go to a different place of allowing, rather than the lower vibration of judgment, you can go to this place of allowing and feel you're drawn to people or you want to move away from them. And on the 3D, that gets loud in the judgmental aspect of it, but it's really a very definitely something that safeguarded me in a time where I never ever actually thought I needed to be safeguarded. I've never felt I needed the protection. It just innately was always there. And I just had lots and lots of really unusual experiences. But with truth as my companion, I also had a really negative experience with the word love. And so years ago in 2015, and Anna, you know, we were talking a lot then. I grew up in a religion where it was patriarchal. Everything was patriarchal. The small town I was in was very patriarchal. I saw lots of lack of authenticity. And I was meditating on the beach in Oregon. I lived in Portland, and it was glorious to drive an hour and be at the ocean. And I'm meditating at the beach, and I'm in a lot of trauma in a relationship I'm in. And I literally had the experience of the mother yelling at me, like, why have you forsaken me? Because everything thus far had been about the father, you know, the religious, praying to the father, all of those kinds of energetics. And then in a course, a very short period of time, I had two remembrances of a Babylonian goddess by the name of Namu, and then later an Egyptian queen, a literal queen called Neith. And both of those are the way spirit has presented information to me. So I get little breadcrumbs and I sit here by myself a lot and just follow the breadcrumbs. And the epiphanies, the blood lightning, when we get goosebumps, I've been shown that's really the lightning in our blood. When an epiphany happens, it's activating our cells in different ways. So I've had lots of that. So it's been a really interesting journey. And I've also always talked a lot. I was never afraid to stand in front of people. I felt like for years, it was my role to protect the weak. And I preferred doing it with swords than with kindness. That probably stems from a samurai lifetime past. My kids make fun of me. Yeah, right, Mom. It's one of my favorite lifetimes. I was pretty good with the sword.
I was going to jump in, Teri, for a moment before we get too much further on your story. And it's very fascinating. I remember when you and I had this conversation about love, and Todd, she found the word itself, love, triggering. And for the life of me, it took me a moment to really grasp what she was saying to me, because love is who I am. It's an energetic being. It just is. And so when she explained the word love and why it was triggering for her, I understood her perspective. Because many people would use it nonchalantly or without merit or truth or feeling. And really, these are the examples that we're being now. Do you see the word love differently now, Teri?
Oh my goodness. When I had a temper tantrum in 2010, because I could do the masculine in the world very well. I raised my kids. I was divorced very early. I raised my kids. I was financially successful. And how I did that is I played the role of the male. So my masculine protected me, created money for me, did all those kinds of things. And I kind of had a smackdown with spirit in 2010. And the energy was, what's more important, money or love? And man, I wanted to say money because money is what makes the world go around, and money is what feeds my kids. And I ended up screaming in this very room and said love. But then I said to Spirit, I said, you tell me what that is, because I've never experienced that. I mean, nature, yes, when you're out in nature and you feel all of those things, but the human component of that has been pretty messed up. And so I heard it was a foundation. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. What the hell does that mean? Well, it's like cement. It's a foundation. And it's been an evolution of things because it's a template that I believe has not actually been available in the way it is now. In 2015, another thing I got shown was Book of Life 1, and it was ending, and that there was going to be a book 2. And that book 2 was beginning to unfold. And book 1 was polarity. Book 2 was actually seated in love, but not the human emotion of love. That's where it got trippy, because that's attractor basins and sexual chemistry and all kinds of things that we've labeled love. And so it was deconstructed for me and reconstructed into, I'm going to use a French word that associates with our cells. There's a model of medicine called biological medicine, and it says your cell is healthy, and it has 6 different stages of dis-ease. So not disease, but dis-ease it can go to, but it has the capacity to morph itself back to wellness if you provide a healthy, and the French word is milieu, the fluid in which the cell resides. That's what I've been shown. The fluid called love, the stasis that is the foundational principles, are really what I feel like we're bringing forth right now in their authenticity. That's what's being birthed on the planet. That's what new codes are coming in, but we had to clear the slate first. So yes, the experience of it is authentic for me now, and it never was. I loved it when COVID happened and everybody had to wear masks, because in my perspective, everyone always wore a mask. So it was now in front of all of us, and now here we get the opportunity to step forward into who we truly are.
Todd?
Yes.
You've been quiet, so I was going to bring you into this conversation.
I'm loving it.
The word love in all its meaning and what we're speaking of, and how it was triggering at first for Teri, and how different people have different perspectives of love, and your level of awareness. What would you like your input on this topic of the word love and being love or feeling love?
Wow. First of all, let me ask you, can you repeat that French word again?
Milieu.
Milieu.
No, milieu.
Milieu.
Milieu. It's the fluid in which it resides.
Yeah. Milieu. Yeah. I think I'm going to change my name to that. Just have one name. No. Yeah, let me just okay. So first of all, I can see why you had Teri on your premiere show. Second of all, I feel a real kinship because of what she describes. I always felt the same way. Well, both of you, what you said, Anna, you always felt like that's who you were or what you were.
Yes.
And I always felt like I was here to protect those who were less capable. And I did it like she did. I did it with my heart, but I also did it, with the sword. And and so that's a really big question. I never, I think like a lot of us, I didn't understand that everybody didn't see things the way we did, or I did. But I did recognize it pretty quick. I'd say probably by the age of probably 10 or 11, I started to realize, oh, this isn't going to change. There's something going on here. And I always dove headfirst into love. I can tell you every girl I was in love with from the age of 3, from nursery school through each grade. Uh, and that was just one form. I loved my parents and my family. And I'm actually in my hometown right now. We've had a family gathering. My uncle transitioned. And so that's been very interesting in these times, because I've been able to watch uh, the polarity of pure unconditional love and the love that is the projection of fear and the distortion that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that love is real time. It's present. It's being in a situation like I've been this weekend, and um, doing everything I can to integrate those two extremes of the spectrum that I just explained, because I know in the end they're all the same thing. The other thing I have in common uh, is that I never felt like I needed to protect myself. Um, I just never felt like I did. I knew that my faith was strong enough because my love was strong enough. And to me, they all kind of mean the same thing. So unconditional love means unconditional trust and unconditional faith. I believe in faith, the transitive verb to trust and believe. I believe faith is motion, love is motion, we're motion. Um, but yeah, I think it's. I agree with what you said as well. I I don't. I didn't go through the, let's just say, the trauma of questioning love, or I guess knowing that it was something different than what everybody was saying it was. But I do get the thing with the mask. But as far as, like, just to kind of tie it up, I think it's something. I feel like everything that we're doing here is like we come into the world with the only thing we leave with that we didn't come in with is the experience, is the space in between. So, I had a couple of live memories of samurai, and that's another that's another synchronicity. But I feel like that it's not even what we did here; it's what we came in with plus what we did here and what we make from it. So it's like A plus B equals C. I look at it as a remix or a expanded coding. So, and I guess I'll just borrow one of my favorite lines from Joseph Campbell. If you don't get it here, you won't get it anywhere. It's all about right here. Love is living. Love is life itself. I always tell people on the show that you can't prove to me that we're eternal souls, and I can't prove it to you. But I can prove that we're both human beings going through human being experience, and the pain and the suffering and the rediscovery of love, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but yeah, I feel that love is all there is. It really is. And I've taken a lot of flack over that over the years, where I was told you can't eat love and things like that. But I've never wavered from it. And I gladly, I didn't sacrifice, and I didn't really suffer. I just gladly did what I had to do, um, to prove, not to prove it, but to perpetuate it from my being, to include going homeless for 2 years and standing on principle. Um, so I believe love is what we are, and it's unlimited, and it's also a power that it doesn't matter who you were or what you were in your eyes or somebody else's eyes. This is one of the great things that I like about or one of the few things, I guess, that I really find inspiring in the Bible, is not to throw shade on the Bible at all, but is to be born again, because you can turn the page at any time you want, right? Bob Seger, right? You can turn the page, and you can be the highest form of what you can um, compose yourself to be in a given moment, in any situation, big or small. and really for me, it's not the big situations, it's the small ones. It's the integrity, the nobility, the courage, and the application of knowledge. Because to me, knowledge doesn't mean anything unless you combine it with action. To me, that's wisdom. Wisdom is also in motion. So I believe love is undefinable and being expanded in every moment.
It definitely is the presence of source in form for me. Love unconditionally means without condition. I love you regardless of the circumstances. That my love is, and I always related back to seeing through God's eyes. And that was one of the quickest ways that I was able to align myself in a higher vibration, was to always remember if I was using God's eyes and how he viewed everyone and everything. And the God and on high, source, whatever labels that we use, I reflect back to that moment. What am I observing? What is source observing? What is my heart reflecting back to me? That is love for me. What we're doing right now is love. Unconditionally and openly sharing our stories, sharing your light, Teri. You look beautiful, by the way. I wanted to tell you that earlier. You look
She's
amazing.
hot. She's hot.
Yes. Ooh, saucy. But yes, let's get back to your story. I know I interrupted, but I like to kind of like stop in different spots so that we can reflect, and the audience and the people that may watch the replay may recognize something in themselves when they speak about love or hear the word love. I want to move to the present moment where Todd, myself, and Teri, where you are now, and we are all just moving through the emotional cord cutting of family, the reflection of what it means to let go emotionally. I experienced that this weekend. I'm sure Todd is being reflected that. And Teri, you have told me that you recently had family around you and in your home, so you had opportunity to do that as well. Now that we're coming through the other side, and it's the Lion's Gate tomorrow, this beautiful portal peaks tomorrow, where are you presently?
I want to encapsulate one little thing before I go there.
Sure.
There's a huge populace on the planet that hasn't had the word love in their field. And so for me, it's very important to acknowledge that some people's lives have been so dramatic that it doesn't mean it isn't present. It means you haven't experienced it. And so to know that it's okay for somebody to scramble with that word because it never was in your life. Some people haven't had mothers or fathers or circumstances. So I really want to honor the fact that we all come from a very different place. And yet here we are here in this moment. And so the in this moment piece for me is I am actually living on land that is 7 generations. My grandkids are 7 generations. They don't live here with me, but next door is the original log cabin and built in the 1860s. And so I have been, I volunteered evidently to come through this and do all what Native American talks about, the 7 ancestors. You make all your choices looking behind you, and you make all your choices moving forward into the generations so that you're in that place of balance that has the most beautiful impact you can have in the moment. So my dance with family has been very tapped into that ancestral thing. One of the things I have on my wall, a piece of art I bought in Santa Fe years ago, is 7 ravens. And it was titled 7 Ancestors, which is why I bought it, because I knew that was part of my spiritual journey, was not just coming into this space for myself, but because of that warrior energy that I've carried, that I knew I could persevere and do this for an ancestral line too, which has been literal. And so I've had lots of conflict, just like everyone has. And all of the work, the last year, there's really been a huge change. I was ready to sell this house and move, and actually had the contract in my hand, not signed, but the contract. And Spirit told me not to sell it. And I'm like, okay. So I've had a very unusual experience happening in the last year in my back with a Zen garden that I had. And my daughter has been very ill in the last couple of years, and her illness created an impetus for me to put some crystals outside. So I put some crystals outside, and I'm a crystal novice. I've had them. I lived in Santa Fe. Everybody has to have crystals, but I wasn't a person who ever interacted with them in a profound way. But I did when she got ill. And then the evolution of things that started coming to me through spirit and dreams and things have been profound and shaken my foundation completely in a wonderful way. And so from that family healing aspect, I've always thought it needed to be mental. You need to bring it in. You need to understand it. You need to process it. And I've spent years doing that. All of a sudden, the field has changed so much. It's kind of like the 7-minute mile. Nobody ever could do anything greater than the 7-minute mile until somebody broke the 4-minute mile. Once it's in the ethers, and I believe that's what our roles are, quite frankly, is the way showers, the pioneers, the first wave, whatever you want to call it. We were in the trenches for a long time. And now what seems to be appearing is that because we've persevered with our own soul contracts that we've lived through and understood, and that's been going on for years, we've finally come to this golden moment. And I feel like this golden moment with the release of family that I had unexpectedly 2 weeks ago, and it was neutral. The energy was neutral. I love the mother tree in Avatar, where she doesn't take sides, she just is. That to me is the essence of the mother, of what love is. It really is this nurturing, beautiful space that all kinds of things occur in, but it's the bounty, it's the goodness that's inside of that. So things are dramatically shifting. And the cool part, years ago, I got shown even new words would be required, because how can we create new templates if we use the same words that have got stickiness associated with them? So again, I said, I don't know what you mean by that. So they picked a big, long 13-letter word, and the letters literally fell apart in my vision. And they were just suspended, hanging in the air, waiting to be recombined with new energetics. And that's where I feel like we are right now. First, we have to know ourselves, because anything we've created from a broken place carries that with us. That's the love that's happening right now, is we're getting to rebirth ourselves. And some of us, that's a literal experience that's happening, which is pretty cool. And in that, creating new templates. And Anna, you made a comment the other day about explaining how you talk about it as paving the road. That was a great description of the different roles we're all playing, because we all have different roles. If you want to share that one.
Sure. And I've shared this with some friends here in Boise and family, and that we all have a huge part, larger than most people can understand. And that if the pieces of the puzzle can only work when we work all together. And I explain it as people who are paving the road. When they're making a road, a brand new road, somebody has to go in and dig the dirt and the pathway. And then somebody comes in and lays down the gravel. And then somebody puts the tar thing on there. And then there's somebody that taps it down. Then there's somebody that puts lines. And then somebody comes in and puts little lights and whatever. But none of that could have occurred without everyone. So I know we can say that there was those of us who paved the way. But from my perspective, we're just the truck in the front that broke the dirt and started the road. There's those of us now that are coming in to lay the gravel down. And there's some that will be putting the lines down. But it all has to work when we're all doing it. It takes everyone. This is about the whole. And yes, it is a choice. Everyone has a choice. It's part of free will. But we had to give the opportunity to have the choice. That was the gift. The gift is to have the choice of ascension, a higher dimensional vibrational experience. But we must consider all, because all are playing a role. Everyone on this planet has a role to play. However we want to label it or describe it in their awareness or not having awareness, they have a role. And that's where I've come from now in my awareness level, is the importance. I used to have this saying that said, all for one and one for all, on my Facebook page. And people would be like, that's the Three Musketeers. Yes, the Three Musketeers used to say that, all for one and one for all. And I still do that when I see different times on the clock, because I believe that. Every action that I take, every thought, word, and deed is for the good of all. And all, and it's the very word. This is possible by all of us. And I love having Todd in the background as the masculine. Thank you, Todd. And I know that you were at a funeral, and so much mirroring back to you. I seen your post on Facebook about, it was like mirror universe or mirror universe. It was speaking about the universe as our mirror. And how has that reflection for you this weekend been?
Yeah, what a great lead in. I don't want to get too, I just want to point out too that this is my grandmother over here. I just noticed that
Wonderful.
She's the first person that came to me after I woke up. Okay. I think this would sum everything up. I won't speak much, but I was able, because obviously, like most of us, I was estranged from my family. Most of them thought I was crazy. I'm sure there's still some doubts. But I knew coming into this situation that my human didn't want to come to. But I knew right away that my soul was telling me, we're going. Human, all of us, we're all going. And you know how it is now. We don't actually know what we're going to do until we're in the space. And so I just witnessed and tried to be reserved and not fall into old patterns that would be, comfortable or familiar, being in the environment with these people. Because it is a big Hispanic family. There's a lot of history, tremendous amount of history. But so it all kind of came down to the night before the ceremony or the funeral. There was a dinner, and in that dinner there was supposed to be a number of people, but only a handful showed up. And at the head of the table was the daughter and baby of my uncle, who I hadn't seen in many, many years. Yet and I was sitting next to her daughter, who looked like a carbon copy of her. She was 27 and my cousin was 51. And I talked to the daughter for a while, and she said to me, "My mother is my best friend."
Mm.
And then I eventually went and talked to my cousin, her mother, and something happened, something beautiful. So with the other end of the spectrum present, um, I knew I was conscious that um, obviously there would be discussions and you know projection and what we'd all be familiar with, and I just knew to continue to hold my peace, and that my goal was to and is to hold that pureness that I experienced with my cousin and her daughter and others in the same uh, at the same level or the same space in my heart as those that were the most distorted, and that's it. So I can't really name individuals because out of respect, but there were some that are clearly um, on the one end of the spectrum, and then the other end much easier to see, but both are speaking just as loud. Both are real. Both are the same as God substance or goddess substance that I am, and I believe this is the trail or the road that we're blazing, is to actually in the conscious human moment through the will of the human aspect to be the final piece or the final piece of alignment in the moment. So I try to keep that in mind.
How
Um,
beautiful that you were able to hold that presence and still are.
well, I did come in. I did come in last night because my chief antagonist is my brother, who I haven't seen since 2016, and it was in very volatile conditions. Um, and I got triggered. And I was talking to my aunt this morning, who is a PhD psychologist. We've always been kind of close. And, but I just said, I walked in, I heard something, it triggered me. I made a comment, I made a second comment, and then I caught myself. I walked outside, took a few breaths, and I came back. So I would have to say that for and that's to me, that's really, that really is, to me, the Trinity is the perfection of love. So anything I do is serving in an equal degree my sisters before me, myself, and the collective. So I think I was asked about it this morning, and I said that wasn't his problem, that was mine, and I took care of it very quickly. So I think this is how we're making progress, is through the actions, that the human being uh, is when the human being is 100% in alignment with all that we've taken in and all these lives and all this information. So yeah, and I think the last thing I would say too is, because I was making this comment last night, it's we one of the fallacies of love, and I think both of you spoke to this or alluded to this. Um, it's not all fluffy love and light. It's actually work
Mhm.
at the human level. It takes effort, and this is another thing too. I believe that the key for us is to one of the keys for us is to recognize and accept and allow those things that were not perceived as love. In other words, the shadows, the grimy, the gritty,
Mhm.
the secrets and lies, and to actually let them come out, to ourselves, to be seen. And because they're the same thing, just somewhere in the story they got mislabeled, and
Mhm.
I'm finding that to be real important. So thank you.
One of my very favorite sayings is Don't mistake my kindness for weakness.
Mm.
We are warriors. Now we're becoming peacekeepers.
Mhm.
Teri, I know that we've already been on almost 50 minutes. I do want to hear more from you because you're just filled with so much wisdom and light. I really want to give you the floor for a few minutes to share what you would like to share.
First of all, I love the field. You guys are awesome. So again, it's a real pleasure and a privilege to be in this space. I was reflecting on the energy of, I have grown children that are really profound people. And I've recognized old soul in my daughter, especially. I mean, I've just known things all my life that I didn't have context for. And as the context comes in, all these different pieces come together. And I knew in this lifetime, for me, the energetic was more of a singular experience, because there's a mastery in knowing yourself and coming into that place without all of the additives. And I will say, in my daughter's illness the last couple of years, it's cool because I'm having a literal experience of a soul speaking to a soul, not a mother speaking to a daughter.
Mm.
And because the familiarity is there, we talk a lot about the literalness of the grandmother carrying the seed womb of the grandchild, of the lineages that are literal. And when I talk about the 7 generations, that's actually, that all-encompassing energy is what their belief structure is that there's a musician by the name of Robert Mirabal in Santa Fe, and I heard him sing a couple of years ago, and he talked about his daughters singing prayers, and the prayers might not get answered for 2 or 3 generations because their views are so exquisitely encompassing. And that, in my journey, I've gone through almost every religious Kabbalah, Mayan, all of the things, everything has informed me in different ways. And I think now those are memories. And the memories are my astrology. I have a thing called a finger of God in my astrology. And for all the things I had done for years and years and years, trying to understand my own soul path, because like you, Todd, I came in with goodness and couldn't figure out why the world wasn't reflecting that. Like, why is it so hard? Why is, and then you get caught in the morass of all of that. But when my astrology, for all the women that had ever done my astrology and men, someone did it 3 years ago, and she's the one who pointed out the finger of God. Well, one of the things that I'm grateful for in this moment is that I have a triangulation, and it is in Scorpio, but where it sits in Scorpio is actually mastery, because I've got 3 signs that are in 29 degrees. So if you know anything about that, that's before it changes into another cycle. So here where we are right now today, I know I've incarnated, as I believe many people have, to help build and pioneer the new. And the beauty and the grace of knowing the mother is energetic, to understand the intelligence of water as a mechanism, because water is something that I've always knew was significant, but boy, am I even surprised about the things that Spirit's showing me right now. And one of the things that another teacher's talking about is creation without the kind of engagement, autogenesis, a creation from a spin density. Like, we can literally vibrate high enough that we can create life literally from, that's the Immaculate Conception. We can really have that happen. And the mother and the water and seeding this planet, because we're all so much water. Those are the things and the gifts that have been being shared with me with Spirit about what now, because we are at a choice point. We can leave if we want to, or we can assume a new assignment, which we're coded with. And, or at least that's been my experience, we're coded with a new assignment. And so where we are right now, and your comment about your family and Todd's, and all these demarcation points we've all experienced in the last month, is it really is for me letting go of the past in a literal way, in a very literal way, to the point that when my family showed up, the stories weren't there. And I'm like, how come I didn't do anything? It's because they were neutralized. There were no stories. And it was an interaction with the land and the wisdom that's held in the land. That's what I'm excited about now. I feel like I was born for this moment. And I often know that my library of information, because I just know stuff I don't even, I mean, I know it's other lives and all that kind of wisdom, but it's still here waiting as this repository. And even I've been shown a thing called the Living Institute. And I'm like, okay, what's that? I even made a card called the Living Institute. And on the back of it is my astrology and the templates that I was shown. So this is my first action. While I'm not creating anything, I created a card because Spirit told me to do this. And then we live into it. And that to me is what's exciting about right now, is that we bring our whole hearts, we bring our knowing. The dream I had years ago was a council fire. So there were 12 positions around the fire pit, and there 1, 2, and 3 were empty. And people in the darkness were walking towards them, and they had backpacks on their back, and then they had something all on their heart. And I asked Spirit what that meant. And I got told the things in their backpack were all the skills they'd learned in this lifetime, because this was a significant lifetime. But the sacred bundles they held on their heart were all the things from their other lives. They brought the wisdom for use in this moment as well. So there's a lot of prophecy. There's a lot of all kinds of amazing things that are happening. And I'm just really grateful to actually now begin book 2 and start creating and meeting people and coming together in organic ways that really are based in a foundation of love and truth, beauty, goodness, joy, abundance, and wisdom and clarity, which are those words are the dance I've been doing for years. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity today to voice this, because I've been behind the scenes for forever. I don't do this kind of thing. So I'm very grateful to you and to Todd for all the work you've done to seed this. 10 plus years you've been doing these live in person. Here we are. How do we show up?
Yes, thank you, Todd.
You're welcome. Thank you for saying that.
Something popped up on my computer. Sorry, I'm trying to get it to go back. But am I still on?
Yes, you're here.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry for distracting you.
Oh no, you're fine. What I wanted to say is, it really makes sense. It started to just, all the pieces are coming together and starting to make sense. How creating in the new without that backpack, without the past, and how all that had to occur so that we can create a brand new way with unconditional love, without attachment, and being in neutrality. And that is the gift that we're all being presented now. How we'll be able to move forward together in a clean slate, clean and clear, just open conduits, receiving and creating all at the same time. It's so beautiful. And I'm so, so grateful for this platform to give me a voice and to share people like you, Teri. I hope you come back on the show. We'd love to hear more of your wisdom. I know I can't get enough of it. And Todd, I love you and thank you.
Thank you. And
anything you want to add before we end the show?
I just want to add that I think she should come back too. I think you should keep going. I think she should keep going, but I think that will all happen organically. And I'm really proud and honored to be a part of this, all of this, because it's finally for me anyway, on a personal level, it's finally not going to be perceived as, a small group of people or one person, one face on a talk show. It's really it's all of us. Like you said, it's all of us.
And we can go a few minutes longer. I was looking at the time. It's only 12:58 and we started. So we have about 5 to 7 minutes left if you want to continue on.
Mm-hmm.
Teri, do you have 5 more minutes?
Oh, sure. I will say how you changed the platform and did what you did. To me, that's what I've been shown. That's part of the new structure, is because stepping away from the chaos. The Hopis talk about these sacred times. And when the chaos of the world gets so strong, you turn your back on it, you put your blanket over the window, and you listen to source and you dream the dream. And that's what we're being invited to do right now, is to listen to our higher self source and to dream new dreams.
Yeah.
That is part of what is happening, and the auspiciousness of today being today and it being authenticity. And I told her, I was joking, I used to own a graphic design printing company, so I have a lot of opinion about what graphics look like, and I love her graphics. I mean, they were just really, really, really well done, and it's an expression of her authenticity. So there's just lots of good, wonderful things waiting for us to come together in new form. I've been shown organic structure that, and that we've all moved around a lot. And in that moving around, it could be a new relocation, which I know is holding space for me too, but it's listening. Instead of our mind constructing now, source is communicating with us through ourselves. And it's not something outside of ourselves. It's our higher selves, even our higher selves in different iterations, whether part of you is Palladian or Atlantean or Arcturian or whatever. For me, it's source and mother and water, because the primordial water is what births everything in the universe. So it's gotten very cosmic in that regard, very star related. But I'm very excited and very grateful. And I guess the thing I would like to leave is, Spirit said to me, there are so many voices, people say so many things, there are so many people that try and teach. And I'm like, how could I possibly make a difference with this new information? And what I got shown was to create the miracles, because people will pay attention to the miracles. And those are new templates. So I'm inviting us all to be the miracles.
We are the miracle. The fact that I'm doing a show speaks volumes on that, because I was breaking through some serious fear to do these lives. So this is a miracle. Teri, you've never done anything like this. I've never done anything like this. So we are in the new. We are sharing this new earth experience right now in this moment. And it's only going to grow from here and multiply with new concepts, new ideas, new creations and co-creations. I'm grinning so big right now because I can just feel it. I feel it just birthing within me and within you and in Todd. This is becoming bigger and larger than life.
Fish.
Don't you think, Todd?
I'm sorry, somebody was talking to me. I heard that except the last part.
I said it's becoming larger than life, our creations, and that it's bigger than us. And what you're creating, Todd, Soulology-wise, is so grand.
Yes, I think we're all like mirrors, small mirrors of the universal. So we have this crazy, wild, incredible opportunity and potential to actually duplicate it and remix it in this heavy, once perceived heavy, dense, slow moving, highly sensory, set of incarnations that's come to the summary life. As Teri was saying, this is it. And hearing what you're saying today, like what you're saying about Teri, what you were saying about making the move.
Mhm.
It just like everything, it makes no sense. It makes no sense by the rules of the world that we've been given, the limits of the world, the box of the world. And I really don't want to talk about my experiences each day because I don't want people to get the wrong impression. But when I would tell you this, I would just tell you this in general. If everyone knew on a personal level what I had, you could say, uh, it's very little. I mean, very little in the world's conventional wisdom. But all along, especially since March the 1st, regardless of what's occurred, and I go through all the same things everybody else does, I have not, I've only grown uh, more faithful, more devoted, more confident, and it makes me laugh. And even having a couple of conversations here yesterday about the world and and people's views, which was interesting because they're changing, but they're not quite, it's a drip, kind of a drip, one drip at a time. Um, I just said I have complete faith in the human race, complete faith, and that's all there is to it. So, yeah, I think we create miracles. That's what happens, and then until there's no longer such a word. Yeah, and I'm really, really. I just want to say I'm really, really honored to be here with the two of y'all because it's a powerful moment. Triads are powerful, and this is very, very powerful.
I feel it. I feel the energy that the three of us are holding. It's so beautiful. I can only smile. It makes me smile because that's how I feel. So much joy and bliss in this moment. I thank you both. An hour went by so fast, didn't it, Teri?
It did.
You thought an hour was going to be a long time, but we really didn't even cover the wisdom that you even could begin to share. So will you come back on the show again?
I would love to. I would love to.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. I'll see you next week on Authenticity with Anna Toothman. Much love. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you both.